Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome. This is Mahaba Gio, and I am here with Kamila Shenmen, who is co-president of the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism. And we are here to speak with her today about her new role at the university, as well as her history here and some of the new programs that they are going to be offering at the USHS. So, Kamila, it's very good to see you.
Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about what drew you to, first, I guess, what drew you to the university? Because my understanding is that you were originally here as a student. That was your original role and capacity with the university. So can you speak about that a little bit?
Yes, I can. I did, unlike Salima and Ibrahim, who were both here at the founding of the university, the beginnings of the university. I entered the university as a student. I was already in my 50s when I discovered Sufism and the university. I was introduced to the path by one of my children who had been a Sufi for a year, and he introduced me to his Sufi teacher. And I recognized immediately that my heart was drawn to this path, and so I took the Sufi promise. I had been searching for a spiritual path that felt as though it was the right one for me for some time, and I immediately recognized as soon as I heard the teacher, who was Salima Adelstein, say that Sufism is a path of love and attraction. I just felt my heart immediately leaping forward and recognizing that I had found my path. So I very quickly jumped in, took the Sufi promise, became a Sufi, and took Sidi Muhammad as my guide. And within a few months, I attended a workshop by one of the faculty at the university, just an evening introduction where he spoke about the university and gave a short demonstration of the type of spiritual healing that was offered at the university. And I remember my immediate thought was, if that's what they're doing there, I'm going. And so within 6 months of being introduced, I attended my first university session as a student. And I have been here ever since. I'm what they call a lifer. They couldn't get me to leave. So I stayed a student as long as I could stay a student, and then I became a teaching assistant and then a faculty member, and worked in administration, volunteered, was a board member, and then just about 8 months ago was appointed with Salima to the position of co-president. What I recognized with the Sufi path and what was being offered at the university in the way of healing, I guess the reason that I leapt in so quickly was that I was completely sick of myself. And by myself, I mean the emotions, the things I'd been saying to myself all my life, the feelings that had been in my heart all of my life that I didn't even recognize necessarily as longing, but I did recognize as unhappiness in a way. I have had a very blessed life and a good life, and for long periods in my early life, probably until the age of 40, my life from the outside looked very good. I had good health, I had a marriage, I had 4 children, I had traveled, I had received everything I'd ever asked for and ever wanted. But I recognize now that no matter how good my life looked on the outside and however happy I seemed to be on the surface, that there was this place in my heart that was never at peace and was never really satisfied. There was a longing there that hadn't been met by all of the outer happiness that I was experiencing. And I came to realize as I worked through as I experienced the healing at this university, that really where this unhappiness was coming from was, first of all, the fact that I had grown up convinced myself that I was unlovable, that nobody would love me because I was, or like me because I was an unlikable, unlovable person. And so there was this longing in my heart to connect with other people, to love other people, to be loved by other people, and ultimately to feel my connection and unity with God, which I didn't recognize for a long time. And I remember that as a young person, I tried very hard. I always wanted to be included in every group. I was very outgoing. I was very vivacious. I was trying desperately to make people like me, and at the same time knowing that that wasn't going to happen because I was not a likable person. And I lived my first 50 years that way. And it was actually a very uncomfortable way to live. I mean, there was this deep unhappiness in my heart, and as I began as a student at the university and sort of walked through the Sufi stations and experienced the healing that is here, at some point in that journey, without any obvious, there was no obvious point at which this happened, but as I experienced and received many healings, and also as a student healer, participated in offering healings to my classmates and to other people as part of my study at the university, that at some point I just realized that that was no longer true for me, that there was love in my heart for myself. And that was really the first step for me to being able to feel the love of the divine for me and to feel my love for the divine, which overflows to other human beings. And that changed everything for me. It has transformed my life from a life of searching and unhappiness to a life of peace. I remember saying to a family therapist, she would ask me what I was looking for, and what I used to always reply was, I'm looking for tranquility. I'm looking for tranquility in my heart. This was before I had found the Sufi path, and this therapist actually was a friend of Salima Adelstein's and knew about the Sufi path. And I spoke to her years later. I met her, and she was asking me how I was. And as I was talking about the peace of my heart, she reminded me. She said, do you remember that what you always said to me when I asked you what you were searching for was tranquility? And I realized, because I hadn't realized, I was like, oh, yes. Because for me, that is the most major gift that I have received, is that there is in my heart this place of peace that I can go to. When I remember the name of God and I sit in a quiet place and I listen and I connect with my God consciously, there is always this ocean of tranquility that I can tap into, no matter what's happening on the outside. So I like to tell people that the major difference in my life for me has become that before I experienced this healing journey, no matter how good things looked on the outside, my heart was unhappy. And now the reverse is true, that, difficult things still happen, and on the outside, sometimes my life can look very difficult. But whenever I check in with my heart is happy and at peace.
Alhamdulillah, that is an extraordinary beginning. And in a way, reversal, an internal reversal, it sounds like, from your state and how you describe you lived, and the sea change that seemed to have happened once you came to the school. Do you remember, was it a moment that you touched upon something that you thought, oh yes, that's it, there's that piece? Or was it more gradual? Was it a building to that? Was it, you talked about following the Sufi stations, which I would love to go back to in a moment and hear more about that. But specifically, because your search was so specific for salam, for peace, for that tranquility, do you remember, was it a moment or was it a a series of moments?
It was a gradual journey. I mean, what I did as a student, because I was desperate, I really wanted the healing, was that I did everything that was recommended to me. There were various practices offered. There was the university itself, of course, which is a way to really dive in and drink deeply from what's offered on this path, and also to specifically study healing. So I did everything. I did all my homework. I always completed my homework. Every
diligent student.
Yes, but not out of duty. It was because I really wanted what I knew was here on offer, and I really wanted that. And so I did everything that was offered to me as a tool. We teach many different tools at the university to help people to transform their inner lives and their bodies, their outer lives as well, their relationships, their bodies, their minds and their hearts and their soul. But I accepted everything that was on offer and really took advantage of that. And it was a gradual process. Little by little, I transformed and became really what seems now a different person. But the moment of realization was sudden. The journey was gradual. And then at one point, I suddenly realized that I had transformed, because, for me, this was my core issue. I was not a lovable person. And I don't know that I'd ever specifically gone into a healing situation and received a healing directly on that issue. It was more receiving healings and doing remembrance of God's name into whatever was up for me at the time. So it may be something that looked completely different, because we have many, many veils within us that block us from that inner peace and love and our awareness of our connection to the divine and to all creation. So I worked on clearing and washing those veils. And so a veil, these veils didn't always look like they had anything to do with my ability to love and appreciate my own being. So I don't remember ever specifically having a healing on that particular issue. But at some point, I just realized one day, it was like, oh my gosh, this is no longer true. I know that I'm a holy being. I know that I have a beautiful heart. I know that I have a connection with God and that I am completely lovable.
Alhamdulillah. Did the realization, which is, I love that you speak of it so, not casually, but with such ease and facility, that was probably a very profound moment for you to have that awareness. Mm-hmm. When you had that moment, did that feeling of peace happen simultaneously? Was it that they happened together, or did one sort of happen before the other? And the reason I'm asking is, you spoke of the clearing and the washing of veils. And for people who are listening who have maybe never heard of Sufism or don't have an understanding of veils, maybe when they hear the word veil, they think of a bridal veil, or they have a specific image. And it just seems like that languaging that you're using might be connected to this experience that you had when you finally had that awareness or discovery through the walking of these stations, or through the lifting of these figurative veils, that you were lovable, and perhaps that brought you peace. So I'm sorry, I'm asking you a lot of different questions all at the same time, but can you speak a little bit about the veils in connection to your realizations and the Sufi stations? Because it seems like they're all connected.
Well, in our tradition, we describe the role of the human being as a mirror of the divine, and that the human soul, which is located in our heart, in that subtle heart that is in our upper chest, carries all of the divine qualities within it. And when we come into creation, into this physical body, that pure holy soul that is the mirror of all that is divine comes in completely aware, completely pure, completely open and uncovered. And then as we begin to live in this physical world, in a physical body, as we begin to inhabit this physical body, which is new to us, and we live in this physical world, which is very dense and feels and seems very real and very concrete, what happens is that gradually, because of our experiences in this world, some of which are quite painful, some of which are beautiful and wonderful, and some of which are not that, we often begin to form mistaken beliefs about ourselves and mistaken beliefs about others and mistaken beliefs about our lives and reality in this world that we live in. And we describe these mistaken beliefs as veils that begin to cover up the truth for us, so that we become less aware of the divine nature that is buried deep within our heart, in the deepest place in our heart. We become less able to connect with that. We become less able to recognize the oneness of all creation, and that we are not separate from the divine, that we are all in complete unity with the divine at all times, and that God is as closer than our jugular vein, as our guide tells us. So gradually we build up these levels of coverings over the truth of our own being. And we call those veils. This is the Sufi jargon for how we describe what happens. And so these mistaken beliefs give rise to these little negative tapes often that we play in our own mind, that we tell ourselves the same things over and over again. And for me, one of those tapes was, "You're not likable, you're not lovable." For someone else, it may be a different tape that is playing. But we all are very familiar with these voices that we've been speaking to ourselves throughout our life, critical, self-sabotaging voices. And these are the veils that are covering us. This physical creation itself, because it is such a dense, real seeming, concrete world, is in itself a very dense veil to the reality of the oneness of all creation, that there is only God. La ilaha illallah. There is no deity worthy of worship but God, and there is only Allah in existence. And so this physical world is a very dense veil for that, because we come to believe in what we see, what we experience, what we touch, and we begin to forget the world of the reality that we came from, and the world of the reality that we will return to after we leave this world. So veils really describes all of these things that are blocking us from really seeing and experiencing our true nature and the truth of creation, and the truth of the ultimate unity of everything in creation with God. And so the work that we do at the university and on the Sufi path is really designed to help us change our awareness, to clear these veils, to wash them, to purify our hearts, to return our hearts. It's really a journey of return for the human being. We come into this world completely in the unity with God, knowing the truth. We then forget. As we go through life, we begin to forget, because our attention goes to the outside. And it's really a journey of returning to the truth. It's one of the reasons that it's the human nature to forget. And it's one of the reasons that in Sufism we call our meditative practice of going within our heart and reciting the name of God into our heart with divine phrases. We call that the practice of remembrance, because we're reminding ourselves of the truth. We're remembering the truth of where we came and the truth of where we're returning. So it's really a moral journey for the human being to purify the heart and return to that state of original purity in which we arrived.
So it sounds like with your original longing and your intention to come to the university for a search of tranquility and dispelling the belief that you were unlovable. Mm-hmm. It sounds like in addition to that, you fell into a treasure trove of jewels in terms of what is possible in the lives that we are leading, of how we can not just be in the world, but be inside of ourselves as a, speaking of that return, that the remembrance takes you to this return of your original nature, or originally who you are, the truth of who you are, but that seems to be in the connection to the divine or to God.
Yes. And this, for me, I did not know that I was searching for a return to the divine. I had no idea at the time that I began this journey. I actually spent 20 years of my life between the ages of about 20 and 40 as either an atheist or a humanist. I'm not quite sure how you would define it. I knew that human beings were innately good, but I did not know or did not believe that there was a necessity for a divine being to explain this. And so it wasn't until I was in about the age of 40 that I often think that God called me back. It was like, you've had your fun now, and now it's time for you to return to me. And so there were things in my life that started to go wrong. What was a pretty carefree, looking pretty good life, things started to go wrong in that life, including that I developed a few chronic illnesses. I'd always been very healthy, had been blessed with a very strong body. And, I had 4 children who I had intended to give a perfect life. I had and of course, the life didn't pan out quite the way I planned it. And as I began to see this perfect, carefree life beginning to unravel, I started to look for what was underneath that. I began to look for meaning. So I really feel that I have always felt that Allah just began to beckon me back. It was like, it's time for you to return now, my beloved.
Did things start falling apart before you came to the university?
Yes.
Like right around the time you took the promise? Is that when it started happening, or did it happen once you had matriculated and started actually?
No, the falling apart happened when I was about 40. I didn't discover Sufism until I was in my 50s. I began the search for meaning, and I began to search for a spiritual path in my 40s as things began to unravel, but I didn't find the Sufi path or this university until I was in my 50s, and that's when I really knew that I had found the right place for me. And it has completely transformed my life. I mean, I'm grateful that I had the wisdom to just dive in. I feel as though attending the university was the greatest gift I have ever given myself, that Allah gave me, of course. But, I felt at the time it was my decision. And I set my intention to attend, and I did, take advantage of everything that was offered. But it completely transformed my whole life, not just at the spiritual level, but physically as well. My relationships, my chronic diseases began to heal or to improve. So physically, as inner healing happened, physical healing began to happen. As my relationship with myself and God began to heal and open, so did the relationships in my life began to heal. As I began to love myself, it was interesting because when I didn't love myself, when I couldn't love myself, all that I ever saw reflected back to me was that people didn't like me and couldn't love me. And once that had healed within me, people would just come up to me and hug me and tell me that they loved me. And, that didn't happen to me before I learned to love myself, other than my children, my close family, and not even always then. So it was miraculous how, as I healed, the outer began to heal as well in all dimensions, as well as the inner. So it really has been a transformation in every sphere of my life.
How has this transformative experience as a student translated into the guidance that you have given and continue to give students now as a teacher at the university?
It the gift that I have received has been so great and so transformative that I have a longing first to share it with others. It's like the generosity that Allah has given to me then in my heart overflows and wants to be shared with others. There's a deep desire to share and for everyone to receive what I have received. And I had to learn actually at the beginning that not everybody wanted to share what I had received and did not want to hear about Sufism constantly from me. You know, some of my own family were like, you know, would you just
stop?
Yes, would you just stop? And so I had to learn that, you know, people who were ready for this would come and would be open, and people that weren't, it wasn't for me to force it on them or to try and share it with them.
Well, that's an interesting point, because I would imagine that the students who come, that there will be students similar to your story, to your situation, who had a deep longing and were ready to just soak in and metabolize every single, you know, morsel that the university is offering in terms of learning about the specific stations, the Sufi stations, and about the healing methods and, you know, and everything that goes along with it. But I would imagine there's also going to be some people who are hesitant, who are dubious, who are, you know, connecting maybe back into those voices that you spoke of, because maybe some people's voices are, I don't trust what's going on, or this couldn't work for me. I mean, I'm just making up examples, but how do you specifically, Kamila, but also how does the university approach students who are coming from a myriad of backgrounds and experiences and ages? And, you know, I spoke with this with Salima and Ibrahim, that their students now coming from all over the world. So you're also dealing with different cultures, and what has that been like? How do you, and of course in any university you're going to have a wide range, but because this is so specifically about healing, and because it seems like the students here also receive healing, is that correct?
Yes.
In addition to be learning how to be healers, what is that like? How do you change your approach with different people, or how do you teach to the whole? You know, in education, sometimes they talk about the whole child. In this case, do you teach to the whole student, or do you have a broader curriculum and then try to have them adjust to it?
We have, as you say, students come here from many different places, different cultures, and also for different reasons. Some people come to the university because they're seeking physical healing. They're very ill. Some people come because they're experiencing tremendous difficulties in relationships and they're looking for healing and peace. As I was, some people already know that they're searching for God and they're really coming looking for a closer union with the divine. We have currently, our program is a 4-year program that offers a master's in divinity at the end of the 4 years. And the first 3 years of that program currently are a common curriculum, because in order to be a clear vessel for healing others, it's important, first of all, to heal yourself, to heal the veils within you, so that you can be clear and allow, be open for the divine light and love to be flowing through your heart. So the curriculum is a common curriculum that begins very much with healing ourselves, our own mistaken beliefs, purifying our own hearts. And to me, the university and the Sufi teachings ultimately are about love and mercy. So it's my personal goal to reflect that and to offer that to every student who comes, to accept people where they're at. Some people do come ready to dive right in. Some people come very hesitant, maybe not trusting. Some people come concerned about, I'm a Christian, I'm Jewish, I'm Buddhist. Are you going to try to convert me to a different religion? Do I have to believe everything that you're teaching me to study at the university? Do I have to become a Sufi? Do I have to become a Muslim? What is it that you're trying to bring about here? And to the best of our ability, we have no agenda for conversion to people to Sufism or to Islam. However, we do say to people, we have to recognize that we're teaching you what we know. And this is a path that has very specific tools, very specific traditions, very specific practices, and that's what we can offer you. And it's open to everyone. And there is absolutely no pressure to change religion, to change, to change spiritual paths that that have worked for you, because there are many ways to God. There's not just one path to God. But what we can offer you here is something that has really worked for us. So come and taste it. It's really a path of tasting. And if when you taste, you recognize, yes, this is for me, then this is the place for you. And we hope that, everyone who comes will taste and accept, but everyone is in the complete freedom. And if somebody comes and this is not for them, we recognize Bismillah, and, we hope that what we've offered you is of benefit and that you find what it is that you're looking for on a different path if this is not the right place for you.
Wonderful. So there's a real, it seems like there's a real spirit of freedom.
Yes.
Within the construct of the curriculum, within the tenets of Sufism. That there does seem to be a wide door, which is interesting. Ibrahim spoke of, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm paraphrasing, but that it's really about finding the unity with all religions, with all people, and finding that everyone, like you just said, has a different path. How do you feel the university? Offers that specifically? Can you just talk a little bit about the curriculum?
Yes, I can talk about the curriculum. Our curriculum is based very much on the teachings of Sufism, specifically our particular Sufi order that we practice is called Chadaliya Sufism. It originated in Morocco, but all Sufi orders have this concept. All those that I know of have this concept of the journey of the human spirit in coming to greater awareness of our proximity to Allah. I mean, the truth is that we have never left the unity, that all of creation, all of existence is one, and that we are not separated from the divine. And that really what we're describing, we have this description of a journey. We use a lot of the journey is described in a metaphorical way. We talk about stations of the Sufi path, but really what these stations are that we're describing are descriptions of what your soul is witnessing when you're in this particular state of awareness and veiledness or unveiledness, openness to the divine. What level of clarity do you have, and what are you witnessing? Are you witnessing the outside world? Are you witnessing the inner spiritual worlds? And so we describe each of these as stations, and our guide Sidi has really described these stations for us in great detail, what it is that you will experience when you're in this particular station, what it's like to be in the station, what you're witnessing, what you will experience, how you will feel. And at the beginning, as you read these descriptions, you think that he's giving you metaphorical descriptions, and then as you move through these states of being, you actually realize, oh, he's actually describing what that experience is going to be like. But you don't know that until you've reached that particular station. And
that's maybe also what you're talking about with the tasting?
Right,
the tasting.
Yes. Until you've experienced it, it's hard for even your mind to grasp it, and it's very mysterious. So our curriculum is designed to help us move through these stations. Specifically, the first the curriculum is designed around the first 4 stations of what's described as a journey of 7. And the first station, which we study specifically in the first year of the curriculum, is the station where we're primarily witnessing this world. And our heart and the eye of our heart and our soul is facing this world and reacting to this world, trying to be successful in this world, caring about this world, wanting things in this world. And that's where we begin. Then the second year of the and much of the healing then in this first year of the curriculum is really about healing that self that's witnessing this world and wanting wanting what it sees, thinking that happiness and success lies in accumulation, satisfying the desires of the self, which is desirous by nature. It's our animal nature that wants, that desires things. And so the first curriculum is about healing the self and understanding this first station, where we're witnessing primarily the world. Then the second year of the curriculum is focused on the second station, which is a station where your heart is really moving back and forth. The divine light is starting to show up in your awareness, and our heart is drawn sometimes to the world. We say that in the heart, or CD says that in the heart there are 2 gates. One gate opens to the outside world and one gate opens to the inner. And in the second station, the soul is witnessing first one and then the other. And in fact, the Arabic word for the heart in the station is qalb, which means that which turns. So the heart is turning back and forth, sometimes witnessing the inner worlds, sometimes witnessing the outer worlds. Then the third station, which we study, and in the second station, it's very much about connection between human beings. And so there's a lot of work done also in relationship, because your heart is wanting to connect with others. And then in the third year, we focus on the third station, which are known as the soul station, where now the heart, the soul and the heart is beginning to become established in witnessing the inner, the divine worlds within. And so we focus very much there on healing skills related to healing at the level of the soul, because healing can take place at the body level, it can take place at the emotional level, but the deepest healing is at the level of the soul and spirit. That's where the most complete healing of disease takes place. All levels of disease, if you're able to heal the source of that illness at the spiritual level, then all the other levels will heal eventually also. So we're focusing very much there and teaching how to open to healership at this soul level. And we work a lot in the third year with the divine names, the divine qualities of God. We have this concept of the different attributes of the divine. There are an infinite number of attributes of the divine, but by tradition, in the Sufi tradition, we speak about the 99 divine names of Allah, and we begin to practice using those in the healings, because these bring in the light of specific attributes, whereas the name of God, Allah, which is the name that we use, the Arabic name, which means the God, brings in all the ocean of the light of Allah, the ocean of the love. Sometimes you want just a specific little remedy. It's like having a different herb for a different remedy, and so sometimes you're working with specific divine names to bring into the healing as well. So in the third year, we focus very much on that. And then in the fourth year, the fourth year is where students begin to separate out into their majors, whether they make a decision of whether their calling is more towards ministry, helping people through the crisis points in their life and really serving people in that way, whether they want to focus on bringing peace out into the world in relationships and communities, or whether they're really wanting to focus on healing and counseling and working more directly as a healer. And we also have had in the past, and inshallah we'll have again in the future, a major on bringing this work out into organizations, leadership and organization. Right now we have the first three that I described are being offered as majors. So in the fourth year, a student will choose one of these majors, and so what was one class will become three smaller classes that each focus on their particular major. And the focus of the fourth year is studying the fourth station, which is known as the Station of the Secret, where you've really begun to witness the divine within, and you're witnessing the secret of God within you and the light of the divine. And in this year, what's really also brought into major focus is bringing what you have received in the university out in service to the world. So the fourth year, a large part of the fourth year curriculum is developing a service project that you have personal enthusiasm, longing to bring out into the world. So some people, people design their own projects, and the faculty help them to manifest that and help guide them. Can you give us an example of one of those projects? Well, for example, when I was a fourth year student, I had always thought, because I'm an acupuncturist and herbalist, I had always just assumed that I would do the healing major. And then in my third year, the department heads of the three majors had a call where we could all come on that call, and they each spoke about their major. And Salima was speaking about the ministry major, and when she happened to speak about service to children, and I just felt my heart immediately turn to that. So my project in the fourth year was, as a year-round project for the whole year, I volunteered at a place called Tunadito in Tucson, which was a place for children to come together. Was children who had lost a parent or a family member. So it was really a place for support for children to come and deal with, what had happened in their life and their feelings about what had happened. It was a safe place for children. And I also went and volunteered for a week down in southern Mexico at an orphanage for severely disabled children. And that was really a transformative experience for me. I spent that week with some of the neediest, poorest, most ill children in the world who had lost one or both parents and were severely disabled, blind, deaf, had cerebral palsy, all kinds of really severe disabilities. And these were the most loving, happy children I'd ever come across. And it completely transformed my concerns about myself. We all have these little concerns, am I going to be taken care of when I'm old? What's going to happen? Do I need to provide for myself? Blah, blah, blah. Am I going to be left alone? And I came away from that experience. Those concerns just magically disappeared. It was like, this was incredible, the children that I met there and the people that cared for them.
So it sounds like one of those wonderful examples where those children who were severely disabled actually ended up being healers themselves.
Yes.
Unknowingly.
Yes. It was a very healing experience. There have been many different practicums. People come up with wonderful projects. There were a group of people in the Peace Major, a group of women who went to an island, and I forget the name of the island now. I forget. I'm sorry, I can't remember where it was exactly that they went, but it was an island in the Caribbean that was had a lot of violence, a lot of poverty, and they went down there to offer training, counseling and mediation and sort of non-violence training, first of all to troubled youth who were living there.
Nonviolent communication?
Well, not just nonviolent communication, but how to, yes, I guess you could describe it that way, but how to reduce the level of violence, how to be with other people. I think teaching peer mediation and different ways of being. And actually, I think they were so well received that they were actually invited to do training with the local police force while they were down there as well.
Oh my goodness. And these were all not necessarily the skill set that it takes to work in these different circumstances, because I would imagine different people are drawn to different situations. Like you said, it's where your heart goes or where you feel your abilities will be best utilized to serve that population or that situation. Mm-hmm. But the understanding of how best to approach the situation or the individuals who you're working with, all of that training is what you receive at the university.
Yes. It's the self-healing and the learning to understand the oneness of creation, how to heal yourself and then help others to heal, to be a conduit, because Allah is the healer, God is the healer, and it's the light of God that heals. We don't heal. All we can do as healers is be with someone, help to hold them in their place of pain and open our beings, connect with their hearts, open our beings to help them receive the divine light of healing. And all of this work that we have done and all that we've experienced in the first 3 years then forms the foundation of what we can bring out into the world, because when your heart has become full to overflowing with the generosity and the beauty and the mercy of the divine, you naturally then want to bring it out and share it with humanity. So there are many different ways that people have found to serve, and often very creatively, because people take the skills that they already have. I mean, so many people, we have many people from the healing professions are drawn to the university. So people take out healing and counseling that they've learned here into their counseling practices or their healing practices out in the world. My husband, for example, was an addictions counselor for 40 years and then became an acupuncturist. And he attended the university and chose the peace major, and he brought his healing skills back. He was working at the Pasco Yaqui tribe in Tucson, Arizona, and also working at the Juvenile Detention Center for young drug offenders. And he brought Sufi healing into both those places and, everything that he'd learned here. And the people loved it. Their hearts were so ready for it. It was just, what he really brought them was love. He brought them love and the knowledge that they were a beautiful human being who deserved love. And this was something that many of these people had not ever really heard before and didn't believe about themselves. So, people have gone into all of these different professions. One lady is doing a practicum. She's an incredible seamstress, and she's been inspired to do a practicum where she has she's teaching sewing skills to young women in America, girls who've been abused, who've suffered abuse. And so she's giving them a skill whereby they can feel worthwhile, but also can support themselves and really feel good about themselves. So she's brought a skill that she came into the university with, and she's found a creative way to turn that into service for the world. So,
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, because I'm using your words, bringing them a possibility for feeling loved and having, and not just in this situation, but in all the practicums, it sounds like it's giving the opportunity for some kind of repair.
Yes.
And filling, it's really what seems like a hole that people have inside of themselves with what ultimately, not to oversimplify, but it does really seem like an absence of love.
Yes. And we're taught in our Sufi path that, God God loves those who serve humanity. This is God's creation, and God loves to see us serve each other. But the beauty of it is that as you receive the love, that desire to share that love with all of creation just flows naturally. It's not something it's not something we have to teach. It's not something you have to force from yourself. It just arises naturally from the overflow of the divine bounty that you find within your heart when you really are able to be in connection with the divine and your own being. So.
Alhamdulillah. Well, Kamila, thank you so much for taking time to share with us your experience, and also, again, to use your words, a taste of what students might experience if they are called to the university and to finding that place of love inside of themselves as well. Thank you so much. This has been really lovely to speak with you.
Thank you, Mahaba. It's been a pleasure. Alhamdulillah.